Just lots of ideas. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 12th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasanowski, she's absent this evening. Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger.
Present.
And Rob Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have minutes this, oh, we do, I'm sorry, 4:14.
2 weeks ago.
Okay, so we have the minutes from 4:14, but our recent ones were currently being audited by State Board of Accounts. So Tanya's had her hands full with that. So we'll get those in our next meeting, or so we'll see. So motion to approve the minutes from April 14th. Motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. Okay, first up on the agenda tonight is a few months ago, maybe a little bit longer now, actually, we had DLZ conduct a space study concerning our current police station. We were kind of going through some issues with that and wanted to kind of help us kind of forecast for the future. So we have Stephen and Aaron tonight from DLZ to kind of present these findings to the council. I think you guys requested this as well. So Stephen's going to take it away and kind of give us a presentation of the kind of the findings from that study.
Thank you very much. I'm Stephen Krumkowski. I'm Vice President at DLZ. So as the mayor alluded to, we were commissioned to go ahead and take a look at the existing police station, look at the overall needs that you have. And it is really twofold. One was looking at the physical condition of the building, but then also looking at the immediate, the short-term, and then the long-term goals of the overall department. So if I can, I'll go ahead and just have a brief presentation that kind of runs through this. If you do want a copy of this, I do have copies that I can provide for you. So overall, just what have we done today? We were really identified that we needed a kickoff meeting. The chief is here. We met with him and his staff. And then we also toured the facilities. We also looked at the physical condition, not only just architecturally, but mechanically, electrically, structurally, site, and all the utilities that were involved. And then, as I mentioned, we looked at the current needs as well as the future needs. And when we talk about programmatic needs, that's really the program, the individual spaces that you have within the department itself that you use. And then we developed a hard copy report that sort of puts it all together. So I'm going to give you the sort of the Reader's Digest. So the building was actually originally constructed in 1962. The fire station was in the facility in 2004, almost 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. The building was converted for the police station. It serves 46 sworn officers, and there's been ongoing maintenance. Most of the equipment is outdated. It's really has seen its useful life expectancy with it. You are doing repairs. You do operate out of there, but it's what we would say it's sort of beyond its life expectancy in many of the conditions. It's not very energy efficient anymore. And so it becomes an ongoing maintenance. And then equally critical of that is just the space that you have in there. You're utilizing space that was originally designed as a fire department that you're trying to make needs as a police department, and they really operate completely differently from each other. And then overall, it does have what we would just call generally a negative impact, not only on the officers themselves from a employee retention, but also an ability for recruitment for the facility, which given the growth of Indiana and most of the communities, everyone is competing against each other and trying to get new staff as well. So I won't go through each one of these, but what we did is really we looked also at ADA and accessibility requirements as well. Does it comply? And so we had the twofold approach. One was looking at the physical condition and the equipment. The other was your programmatic needs. And then with all of that, we began to look at, we didn't do design work, but we did need to understand organizational adjacencies and then also put a general cost that one would anticipate. Now, I will say before I even get to that last slide with the cost, it's very general at this point. When we put this together, we're looking at square foot dollars. We do have some precedent in other facilities. We're involved with the West Lafayette Police Station right now, the Public Safety Center, which actually bids on Wednesday. So we'll see where those numbers come in at. But we also, part of that project, we looked at other facilities as well, just so that we gauged what was the current trends. And that was well before tariffs and the chaos that's going on right now in the bidding climate with availability of workforce and materials. So with any project, we wanted to sit down, we met with the chief and his staff, and really we needed to make sure we understood what the goals and objectives were. And so we wanted to always make sure that it met the functional needs. So it can be a beautiful building, but if functionally it doesn't satisfy your requirements, it's not a very good building as far as I'm concerned. And so we wanted to look and make sure we met your functional needs, not only today, but also into the future if there's potential growth. We wanted to make sure that it had an ability to enhance recruitment and retention of public safety officers and personnel, promote pride in public safety. It was durable, low maintenance, and will last approximately 50 years is sort of the gauge. So it doesn't make sense if you use lesser quality materials that may be more economical, that you're going to be putting more and more money into it from an operational cost. And then also overall healthy work environment, which is critical. There's some statistics out that are sort of amazing in terms of the well-being and the health of our public safety personnel. And we also had to be publicly responsible. These are public dollars. You have to be fiscally responsible, whatever option you give. And then also it enhances, improves, and streamlines the public safety operation as a whole. So that really goes to the efficiency. So we break it down into 4 themes. 1, functional, operational, the wellness and mental health of the officers, public perception, no longer in the 1960s and 70s. Police facilities were hardened. You couldn't really tell the difference between a jail and a police station. They were just hardened facilities. And so it's really different today. The officers now are really part of the community, and you can exemplify that through their work environment as well. And then your overall commitment to public safety for this community, and also for the growth of the community that it would serve. So you all know where the facility is, but this is the property that you have. You have some surface parking. You don't really have a secured parking area for your officers, different from the public. And then there's some other areas that are of concern as you look at the overall facility. Building organization, each one is color-coded based on its operation and its use. You can see their groupings are not always together in terms of how the building needs to be organized. We also looked at it, so we talked about future growth. What is that growth? And so we started out as saying, okay, you have 46 officers right now. Given the growth in other communities and the growth that's happening, let's go ahead in a 10-year projection. Let's assume it's going to be 100 officers. Was there any magic to that number? No, but it was based on some other precedent and so forth. We also began to look at 100 officers, that's 10 years, maybe it's 20 years, but let's look at it also, what would you need if you only had 50 officers? So you're meeting your current needs, and maybe there's a potential that you could expand the facility to meet the 100 officers at one point. There's no sense in designing a facility that is double the size that you need immediately, because then it goes to that fiscal responsibility. Even though it's cheaper today to build than it is 5 years from now, you also have to kind of balance those. And so we began to look at the number of officers, and then we also looked at the square footage. So currently you're about 17,000 square feet. If we go to 50 officers, your programmatic needs is about 38,000. And then if you went up to 50 officers, you'd be at over 50,000, almost 51,000. This is gross square feet. And so we began to look at these in terms of what you actually need, what are your needs and what are your wants, what is the current requirements to meet the level of service that you need, and then what are the areas when you grow that you have to expand as well. And so as we begin to look at this, we always break these down into about 12 or 15 different subcategories. So you can begin to understand, well, where is the issue? Is it that you don't have enough administrative space, or you don't have enough training space? Where really is your areas of growth? And so these areas that I've highlighted, community relation component and use of the space for not only just the officers themselves, but for community activities to foster that transparency and that relationship that's lacking in your current facility. Your patrol area, your investigation, training is a big one when you begin to look at the training components. And it's not just fitness room, that's one component, but it's also conference space and other training components that you have to provide the service that you need. Evidence, and then fleet is another one. When you begin to look at the purple is your existing, and then you can see the 50 officer versus the 100 officers. Key amenities, public lobby, I think you would agree all of these are things that just walking into it, you realize that you need a little more of a public lobby space, some direct connection to those public services. You don't have to go deep into your facility to receive those. Currently you do. You have to go past that line of a secured, the secured lobby to interact with some of these spaces. Evidence, the secured and expanded evidence area is critical. Integration of the office environment. You don't have the ability to be sharing as much information, even though you're on a single level. The adjacencies, you're more than just down the hall from them, down the hall around the corner, and then take a left, and you're finally with other officers that you need to interact with. So that goes back to unified zones within each division. That helps with your overall efficiency. And then gathering space, secured parking is lacking. And then your Sally Port and any holding areas as well. So within the report, there's plenty of photos that we've sort of documented those. So then we began to look at, well, okay, how big would you need to meet these requirements? And this is going back to, okay, let's look at a single story. Let's assume that there's some parcels, and we don't know any parcels. These are all sort of just areas to give you a general sense. So we said, okay, how big of a parcel? And we said, well, at a minimum, you need about 7.5 acres to develop an undeveloped parcel. That would allow for 36 public parking spaces for a facility of this size. You need about 88 secured parking area, and you need about 41,000 square feet. Gross square feet for a single story facility. So that would be about 7.5 acres. And then, okay, it's easy to draw boxes on a page, but how does that actually work with your program? They have to be integrated to each other. And so then we began to look at the organization, and it wasn't just a rectangular piece in a T form. It actually represented interior spaces in terms of the organization and working together with that. So then we said, okay, well, what if we don't have 7.5 acres available? How small of a site do we need? And maybe we need to go to a 2-story, or maybe it's a single story as your first phase, and we design it such in a manner that you can have the structure that can have a second story easily added to it. So then we said, okay, well, let's look at a 2-story facility. Look at a 2-story facility, you probably need about 5 acres. You can reduce it down by still same amount of program, but your footprint is smaller, and so therefore your site can be smaller as well. The footprint's only about 25,000 square feet. And then how would that work in terms of 2 levels? There's some departments that want everybody on a single level, but the reality is there's some public function space, and there's also some more secure and private spaces. And so we began to look at what would go on the first floor, which would be the public sectors, and then what would go up on the second floor. And then we said, well, okay, maybe we don't have a parcel. What if you have something that you want downtown? Who knows if there's even a parcel downtown that's available. But if you have a parcel downtown, what does 2 acres or 2.5 acres, what does that represent? And it essentially represents just a city block. Okay, so that kind of gives you the overall sense of scale. Now, there are some facilities that we're designing that we have a parking structure and the building goes on top of the parking structure. So you're able to do, I think West Lafayette, Lafayette has something similar to that. West Lafayette, the one we're doing right now, has 2-level parking deck, and then the police is above that on that component of it. There's more programmatic needs on that. But so this gives you a general sense in terms of a sense of scale. If you put it in an urban site, you need at least a block, maybe a half a block, but then you would probably have to go up another level. And this would be so the big question you're always going to ask is how much is it going to cost? I don't know. And that's not a rhetoric or answer. It's really the matter of the fact there's too many unknowns right now. We're very early in the project. So the only way you can come up with a realistic number and an order of magnitude if you apply a square foot to your a square foot cost to your overall. And so what we begin to do is look at the hard construction cost. And one of the things you always have to remember is you have a hard construction. So when we talk about hard construction, that means when you open up bids for the building and the site work, that's hard construction. If you've ever gone through a building project before, you know there's a lot of other costs that are associated with the project. So if you go in and you say you need 30 million, you actually need more like 38 million when you put all the other costs. So it's not the architect's fees, but there's other things like land acquisition, utility infrastructure improvements. You have bond counsel, you may have financial advisors. There's all sorts of technology. Furniture is a big one that always comes up. Furniture for evidence is very different than a typical file cabinet that you would have in an office environment. So there's a lot of pieces and components, and we try to break those things down. And there's actually a 2 or 3 page document that we put all these numbers together that support that information. But right now we're thinking somewhere around that 30 to 38.5. That 38.5 is the full 51,000 square foot, the full 100 officer fit out. And then we always assume about 15 to 20% of soft cost. And those are those other additional costs we talk about, whether it's escalation. You don't want to put a number together that's based on today's dollars if you're going to take a year to design and you're 6% less than what you were at or more in a year from now. So all of those come into play. And so you're really looking at a project somewhere probably in that, if this program continues, is you're at 36 to about 44 million. Okay. Now that's a lot of money. I get it. Okay. But also realize the task was, what do you need to build this project for the future? And so that's not to say that you can't build it for 50 or 60 officers and it can be adjusted. Okay. I will say you're going to be very hard pressed to get a project that's going to meet your needs for $12 million. Okay. So you're in this sort of range, and I know it's a very broad range, but there's a lot of factors that come into play with that. Just as a point of reference, the Lafayette PD that was constructed and opened up in 2023, that was at $742 a square foot. Okay. The West Lafayette, the Public Safety Center that we're bidding, that's estimating right now as $223. We'll see where it actually comes in at. That estimate was based on work that the CM put together at the end of the year before all the tariffs and everything else came in. So we'll see where that comes in at. McCordsville was about $660 a square foot, and that was also in 2023. So even if you put 6% for 2 years from now, you're, 10% is 720, so 20%. So you're at least around that 750 mark. Okay, so our numbers are real close to being what those numbers are representing, what we used as a guide. But when we started this, it was also assuming some of those soft costs like land acquisition, which land isn't getting developed or undeveloped. If someone knows you're going to develop it, it tends to go a little higher. So
can you tell us what their number of officers that they designed to for those 3 projects?
So I will.
So Lafayette, they're at about 135 and they designed for 150. And I don't know West Lafayette, but I know McCordsville, they designed for 50. Is that right, Chief? 70.
70, but I think they're less right now.
Yeah, they're at 25 right now.
25, they designed for 70.
So Chief and I have actually both toured both McCordsville and last week toured the Lafayette station. We think McCordsville built too small. That was kind of our gut reaction based on where they were with it too. So,
You think it was too small?
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, good.
So, and one of the things that I think that we've discovered, especially, we've gone through the Lafayette facility and other facilities, and where it comes down to is how you're operating and where you can save square foot, which equals save flexibility. So on the Lafayette project, what was very evident is everybody needed a private office. And so from my perspective, it was like a maze going through the facility. Now, they have a different setup and there was a reason why they did that. And so I'm not criticizing that design at all. It's a nice facility, but that's why it's really important when you're working and figuring out that program, what's flexible, how do you want to interact? If you can interact with open workstations, or you can have like patrol. One of the things we saved quite a bit of square footage on the West Lafayette was the patrol area. There were more touchdown spaces. We call them touchdown or hoteling stations.
You pull that mic
Oh, I'm
around.
sorry.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you.
There were hoteling stations or touchdown stations, which meant most of the officers have laptop. They're in their car. They need to come in. They need to download. They need to do a quick report. They don't need a workstation that is not used 80% of the time. Okay. And then we were able to personalize components so they could have their picture of their dog or whatever they want. And so you need to be sort of conscious. You can have the design work in your favor without spending a lot of money. It's easy to just say everyone's going to get an office, but it also costs a lot of money for everyone to have an office. So, and then people are in their office, they're not interacting with each other. So if they need to share information on cases or what they're doing, now you're going to a third location to touch down and actually then have a very formal meeting instead of a little more, I don't want to say casual, but a little less informal, a little less formal meeting. So there's ways that you can have what I would say the architecture work to your benefit from a lot of different, from an operational standpoint, but also directly from a cost standpoint.
Any more questions for Stephen?
Last slide.
Oh. Which,
Pull the mic
Yeah.
down.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Could you please bring the last slide back up? After he said, or not the last one, I'm so sorry. The one, yes, because I was just looking at the square footage with McCordsville, and you said they had roughly built up to 7.
They're 25 now, but then they project to go to 70.
Okay. And then Lafayette was
They're
100 and
about 135, I think, and then they build it for up to 150.
Okay.
for them.
Sorry, I just wanted to see that square footage for each.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. Thank you so much.
Well, in Lafayette, and that does not include the parking garage, though, correct?
I think that did include the parking.
So they also have an attached parking garage. There's the lower level is like a secured one for police, and then up above is for public parking as well. So so maybe that might be why it's a little bit higher too, just from that.
And I would always be careful in looking at square foot numbers that are in the paper. Not that the press does anything wrong, but when you're talking about it, people sometimes leave the building cost. It's sort of it's the way to spin things, right? Sometimes you want it to be bigger, sometimes you want it to look smaller. So when you're looking at things, they may not have all the soft costs. They may be what the bond is, but they had a separate fund to pay for all the furniture. The numbers I provided basically is sort of all in, no matter how you end up funding it. So those numbers included all the furniture, all the compact storage, all the evidence storage. And those are just based on experience and trying to stay in tune with what's happening within the field of public safety. So.
Is it more expensive to do kind of that urban style, or is it kind of?
You know, it depends, because on an urban setting, you may not have infrastructure extension, but if you're really downtown or a much more urban site, you're probably going to have earth retention because you can't have the adjacent roads caving in on you. So you're going to have an additional cost with that. Whereas if you're in a greenfield site, you have a little bit open cut. We always like, if you got to dig a hole, let's use it. So you would put a basement in. put all your mechanical down there. That's going to save long-term use or long-term wear and tear rather than having it outside. And then you're sort of double, you don't want to bring fill back in. If you have to dig it out, let's put a basement in rather than just fill it back in. So, okay. A couple of things just real quick, sort of the next steps, just from our perspective is that one, you have to sort of consider the dollars, obviously, but I think it's really site selection. What would you do? And there's no one answer. There's a whole analysis to make sure that if you do choose multiple sites, a lot of times we'll have 5 sites that we're looking at. No one can decide which one. And there's probably about 25 different parameters that we would look at. And then you would start the conceptual, obviously some public engagement you would want to have. And then also working and really honing this thing in on what your project really is. Is it 50? Is it 100? Maybe it's 70 or 60? Who knows? Or maybe it's initially 50, but we got to expand and have the ability that if we do grow, that we're not tearing down what we just spent all this money on. And then you have to refine, then you go through the design, bidding, construction, occupancy. So this isn't a short process. This is design on this type of a project could easily take a year and a half. Wouldn't be unusual. Just site selection, depending on how much public input, how much discussion there really is, it could easily be 6 months, probably at a minimum. It's usually could take more than a year just to go through a site. We've been working on a project that I think it's 3 years now. They're still talking about the site. So it's just part of the process. So, but I do appreciate your opportunity to come here tonight and share just what our findings were. And if there's any questions or you need a copy of this, I'll be happy to share that with you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Number one, wait a minute. I would like to get a copy of it if possible.
Sure.
And then I did have a question on site selection.
Yeah.
On the Lafayette, I'm familiar with its original site. Did they stay there or did they move? Where did they go? Because they were close to downtown.
They moved right across the street, John. So it's literally, if you're in the municipal building, there were lots just across the street
The
from
old
it.
parking lot
Yeah.
is where they went.
They did a
It is a
four-story
very
tower.
tight site. It's right downtown.
Yeah, it's four stories.
Did they keep their other site and it was across the street?
Yeah, because that became like the municipal building, and then
Yes.
they moved the fire
And the
admin.
courts,
Well,
they were on the opposite side?
I think the courts are still there, but
Courts are still there. They didn't move the courts into it.
courts are still there, but they moved the fire admin into the municipal building essentially. Yeah, but it's right across the street from the municipal building.
On your studies, I don't know how many locations you've done in the past, but with cities, is it better to have it downtown or is it better to try to look at how the growth is for that community and try to adjust to the growth?
So on the PD side, PD police, the location, one, you always have to know what are you serving? And if you have satellite or you have one station that's serving everyone. So if you have one station serving everyone, centrally located would be ideal. It's a little bit different on the fire side. Fire side, you have response time. And so if you have growth in new areas, you may want a station that's closer to that growth because it cuts down on your response time. And then that goes into your ISO ratings and so forth. So on the PD side, there's a lot of things that come into play. One is we've had police stations that go in depressed areas, lack of a better term, depressed areas because they want the community to realize that the city has invested in the stability of that overall neighborhood in that area. And that is a catalyst for, you're not going to move a police station. So that's a catalyst for other growth if they see the city is promoting growth in that area. So it's not, the officers tend to have their districts or their areas, like a better term, their areas that they're serving. So it's not, the central location is ideal, but it's not necessary in terms of how you're doing your policing if you have one station. So that's a long-winded, probably non-answer for you, so I apologize. But
Just trying to find 5 to 7.5 acres downtown Lebanon seems like a difficult thing to do at this time.
yeah,
That's the reason I was asking
basically
the
it's
question.
one, I think the 5 acres would be, you could cut it down to probably with an urban site. A typical city block is about 2, a little bit more than 2. And that may be unrealistic as well, but
He showed it where he had it on our current site on one of the photos, right? So you could fit it, but it's a factor of how much parking you have and then how high does it go, right? So, yeah. Additional questions?
I think it's something that we ought to try to figure out how to put together some program presentation or whatever to try to sell it to the public a little bit. I know it's a lot of money, and I know it's way the budget they're predicting is going to be in the next year or two, could be issues. But yet if the public doesn't understand the need, if we could get them to understand the need. I mean, we addressed some issues here, but you didn't address what our report said about how bad the building is. The current building itself is absolute disaster and needs to come down. And so we didn't address that issue.
well, actually, I apologize. It is addressed in the report. I didn't get into the weeds of.
He didn't want to insult that stick.
But you're right, from a public perception. So with any public project, if you're old enough to remember when it was initially built, then you think it's a brand new building. And so people forget that this is 20 plus years ago that you renovated. And then when you renovated it, lack of a better term, it wasn't renovated very well. You kind of put a Band-Aid on it to make sure the police had a space. But if you go through that, so we do, within the overall report, we do talk about the specific ADA issues, and we go through that. And so I didn't go through all of that because I think.
Well, that's where I think if we had
Sure.
a series of public meetings where we can introduce them to, we do have the public sitting at home tonight watching, and they deserve to hear the information that's being presented. And I think if we can have some of those public meetings to get their input, okay, as well as to provide ours, that we're looking at something down the road. We're not sure what it is, but this is what we're expecting with the growth of the community. And Ben sitting back there gave us a report last week or 2 weeks ago that the city was going to be 68,000, what that in 25 years.
That was Boone County. That was Boone County, not just Lebanon.
Some huge number, and it's like, if we're going to be growing that much, there's going to be a huge need, and we're going to need to try to figure out something.
And I'll be more than happy if you want to come back and talk more specifically about the details of what the systems are. And we can go through your mechanical and your electrical and plumbing system. I think plumbing, Chief's still here. Yeah, so you could probably talk about that. So.
But basically that study, your recommendation was really this has reached the end of its useful life, and retrofitting it or trying to fix this would be not as beneficial or cost effective as just doing a new facility. That was kind of your analysis from the space.
That's correct. Yeah. Everything from the exterior envelope, you just don't have any insulation that's worth anything anymore. Your roof is falling, is leaking. It doesn't have the right thermal values to it. I can more than happy to go into specifics for the public but it is in the report, and we did look at all of that. And part of it was, as we started going through it, we're basically gutting the entire building. And at a certain point, what are you keeping? You're not even keeping the parking lot because it's in such poor condition that you're going to be basically reconstructing a new parking lot. So why take a tight site that has a lot of difficulties to it and building a new building that's going to continue to have those same site difficulties and other things to it. So, but I appreciate your comment though.
You're too nice on us to say your police station's falling down essentially. So, yeah.
Well, I guess my other comment, I'm not opposed to moving it out of downtown and being a location. I think, because the only reason I look at it is I don't see And I see the officers here, I see the officers here, and I don't see a lot of officers at the building when I go by. So it's kind of like, to me, I don't really see that need. That they'll be where they need to be when they need to be there.
And I would say, and part of, I think, next steps for what we've talked about internally is obviously Chief and I are going out and looking at other police stations to kind of understand what other communities have done. Again, like see maybe where they made mistakes, see what we liked. So we're kind of giving our informal kind of tour, so to speak. And I would encourage, I mean, if you guys want to join us, we can extend those invites for you as well too. We're trying to kind of gather the information and get perspective and on that. But I mean, feel free to reach out to other communities too. I mean, I'm sure I would tell you, they're usually very happy to show off their police station to you. So if this is something you guys care about, I mean, they will be happy to walk you through it. And I would say then also, while that's happening, we've talked about internally having kind of a site selection team kind of with Ben and get some of the kind of planning folks in the room along with police and probably some of you guys as well too, just kind of think about siting and what makes sense and kind of starting that process too before. But I mean, obviously we had to get this point first and show the information and then and kind of it's as Steven said, it's not a quick process. It's a long process to go through this. So yeah. Any other questions for? Sorry, go ahead, Keith. Yep.
It's not necessarily a question, but we need, obviously that building needs to go down and fixed, get it somewhere else. But we also need parking downtown. And I see us cleaning that thing off and make a parking garage there. And then what's the rationale of having a great big building for 75 or 80 people that's not going to be in there that often? Maybe once or twice when they have a big meeting, but they can do that in other places besides that building. And how long does it take? As big as, like Ben said the other day, this place is getting bigger. I mean, we already have people in the city of Lebanon over 4 miles out.
Right. Well, and frankly too, right, if we're talking about building a station for 50 years, right, what is policing going to look like 50 years from now? That's a whole, I mean, that's something we were talking about in Lafayette the other day. And Chief, if you want to come up too, if you want to, I mean, it's, there's a lot of,
some of the stuff to think about too is as Lebanon grows, we have task force, we have the drug task force, we have the case task force, we have all this other stuff that's starting up. So we're sending our officers off to Hamilton County for the drug task force, and they work in Boone County also. We send them to Whitestown because they have the facility to handle that. As Lebanon grows, it'd be nice, since we're the center of Boone County, is if we couldn't start having the task force here, so that means we have to have the facility that can handle that, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what it's going to be like here in 20 years, how big we are going to get and how much space we're going to need. But right now, I know we don't have enough, so I would like to keep our officers here in Lebanon and doing these task forces as opposed to sending them off to someplace else that can handle them.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief or Stephen for council? Obviously, this is just a presentation to kind of get your wheels starting to turn. Obviously, it's a big number and there's a wide range on it too, certainly. And, lots to think about, certainly with that. So,
Thanks.
Well, thank you for all the hard work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to old business now. This is resolution 2025-12. Council consider the 2025 comprehensive plan update. Ben.
All right, I will do my best to be expedient on all these agenda items that you have coming up here. So in terms of the comprehensive plan update, we did a presentation for you last time, talked a little bit about process we went through over the last about year and a half. Anticipating an adoption of the resolution and comprehensive plan tonight. In terms of next steps, we will work with our consultant to update the website. Also, that's the one last big action item we have. The document is primarily done, but then we'll do the update on the website as well. So that's a real quick where we're at on the comprehensive plan. If you guys had any specific comments or questions that we want to address tonight, we can certainly do that. I didn't receive any direct or specific comments in the last couple of weeks, but if there, I guess, Dick, you did send me a couple of general comments, but in terms of anything specific you want to address, be happy to do that. But I figure I'd just keep it short and just address any questions you have.
Questions or comments for Ben at this time concerning the comprehensive plan? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Does the plan have anything in there regarding people putting Airbnbs in neighborhoods and things like that?
So the comprehensive plan isn't necessarily the place for something like that.
Okay.
So it's more of the 10,000 foot view of the city and future plans. We've certainly talked. We actually address short-term rentals in the Unified Development Ordinance already.
Okay.
But if there's anything more specific we want to get into later in terms of how to regulate them, we certainly can. But the comprehensive plan isn't a place. We wouldn't get that specific in a comprehensive plan.
The other question I have been, how do we control people in housing developments and half of them are rentals?
Well, that's obviously a conversation, again, probably not for the comprehensive plan, but certainly a conversation some of our neighbors are going through right now. And the mayor also have been watching to see kind of how those play out.
Probably a conversation they're going to have in the courts, actually.
Yes, I was going to say, try just to see, because they're probably going to be challenged. So we're trying to not be the first one through the door on that and seeing how that gets that gets responded to in terms of some of our neighbors. But yeah, we're definitely watching that.
I know that there's other places they're starting that now. Different cities have already.
They have, and I, just based on the conversations I've had with interested parties, I think there will be lawsuits filed against them. So it's going to be interesting. It's kind of a new concept, certainly. And we'll see, frankly, where the courts kind of dictate where it falls on it. So, and again, those are all separately passed ordinances necessarily related to the comprehensive plan. But, if we had, I would say, we've had situations locally, right, where we would have loved for them to stay full market rate pricing, but that wasn't, someone came in with capital and purchased the buildings, and they're now for rent products, and it's America and they're allowed to do that, right? So obviously there's a balancing act that we want to find with that, and we want homes to be affordable and people to be able to live here of all different price points and all those things. But there are going to be limitations either by state law or by the courts of what cities are allowed to do. And so I think we're kind of on this point. I think we're okay kind of just seeing what happens to the other communities, and we frankly may get some guidance based on that. So we don't always have to be the first ones through the wall on those issues either. I think we can watch and see what happens with it too.
I understand that, but at the same time though, you got people, you're seeing people paying $1,700, $1,800, $19 a month to rent a house. Well, the people that are buying those houses are these multimillionaires buying them. And they can get $19,000, $18,000, $20,000, $10,000, $2,000 a month. Whereas you can buy a house and live for a whole family in there, but they come in and buy it over from the people that are building them.
And I empathize, and we're trying to certainly have more supply in our system. But we live in a free market in America and capitalism, and people are allowed to buy property for when they're offered to buy it from. And so I understand where you're coming from with it, Keith. But there's a lot of factors that come together of why housing costs and prices have gone up, right? And certainly, especially here in Boone County, we're seeing a lot of those impacts. And I see that and I hear that. The tools we have at our disposal, though, are limited by the state legislature and, frankly, the United States government of what we can actually do to impact those locally. And so what we can do, certainly, that we know we can do, is we can try to have more supply come to our system. When there's more demand, when demand exceeds supply, prices are going to go up. And so we've tried to take an all the above approach when it comes to development.
This is not necessarily supply. It's just I'm a multimillionaire. I can go out and buy them, and I can turn around and get $2,000 every month versus, can you imagine what that's going to make me? multi-million-dollar more.
Well-
That's what's going on.
I hear that. I mean, but again, it's also, that's.
It's a business. They're making a business decision. They recognize they can make a profit doing those things. So that's, yes. But you look at those houses at $250,000 at the current mortgage rates, by the time you include all of the homeowners association dues, they'd probably be paying over $2,000 a month if they owned it too. But we're definitely watching our neighbors to see how that goes. But I agree with the mayor. If you just look at simple market forces, it's supply and demand. Our best way right now, demand is outstripping supply. Our best way to get prices down is to bring more supply and bring more options for people, whether it's for sale or for lease product.
And Ben, I think from our meeting earlier, you said we're projecting somewhere around 400 homes potentially next year. And
Yeah.
our last, what'd you say? Our last highest year was what, 100?
About 170.
170. So looks like we're gonna have hopefully a lot more for people to be able to choose from in the next year, building wise. So.
Love the discussion, by the way, I do love it. But are there any questions or comments about the comprehensive plan resolution specifically? Okay. Rob, can you hit the highlights? And it's a long one.
I will. Yep. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This resolution 2025-12, again, is a resolution adopting the 2025 Lebanon redefined comprehensive plan update. You've had this for a while, but as you recall, the Lebanon Plan Commission found that this comprehensive plan update is in accordance with the promotion of public health, safety, morals, convenience, and the general welfare and economy in the process of development of the community. Certified 7-0 to send favorable recommendation to you. This council adopts the 2025 Lebanon Redefined Comprehensive Plan that's attached as Exhibit A. Any prior adopted resolutions or exhibits that are in conflict are repealed and deemed to conform to the provisions of the 2025 Lebanon Redefined Comprehensive Plan Update, and this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately on adoption.
Thank you, Rob. Resolution has been read. So this time, is there any public comment concerning resolution 2025-12? Okay. Seeing none, any further discussion, comments from council?
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2025-12.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next up, Ben's back up here. Ordinance 2025-13. This is a rezone for 1400 West State Road 32.
Hopefully I'm up a few more times after this.
I know,
too,
yeah,
so-
you're kind of the whole first page here, aren't you?
Yeah. So this one is a rezoning, and just a quick recap from last time. These are properties that are the commercial outlots in front of our Shell building out on State Road 32. They were historically zoned for commercial use. We had a user that was negotiating a purchase of the building and was also negotiating a purchase of the outlots. So when we updated the UDO and zoning map last year, we went ahead and just rezoned those to light industrial to accommodate that user. That user has since gone away, and now these parcels are being marketed for commercial development, and actually have one that's already been purchased and proposing to build a hotel, and another that's under contract for additional commercial development. So we had suggested to the property owners and to these users to go ahead and move forward with the rezones back to a commercial zoning district to accommodate those developments, and that is what is before you here tonight. This one and the next item, I'll just say ditto on the next one because it's essentially the property next door, rezoning from light industrial to general business, and that these do come to you with a positive recommendation from Plan Commission.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben from council concerning these properties? Any public comment concerning the next two ordinances either? Okay, Rob, will have you read 2013 first.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Ordinance 2025-13, again, is ordinance rezoning property and amending the zoning map of the city. Petitioner Kushi Ashi Hospitality LLC, again, filed its application for rezone. It is the owner of the property that's set forth in Exhibits A and B that will be rezoned from light industrial to general business. The council finds that it has paid reasonable regard to the comprehensive plans, current conditions, character, current structures, and uses in each district. From and after this date, the official zoning map of the city shall be changed to rezone the subject property, again, from light industrial to general business.
Thank you, Rob. Ordinance has been read on second reading. Further discussion, comments from council? Would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve ordinance 2025-13.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. And Ben, can you just throw the map up for the next one so we make sure we're talking about?
All right, so here we're just now at 1410 West 8th Road 32. So I'm going to pull that up here. Oops. This is the site here, right just to the west of where we just approved.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Any questions on that for Ben, council? Okay, Rob?
Thank you, Mayor. Council Ordinance 2025-14, again, is a ordinance rezoning property and amending the zoning map. The petitioner, Sunrise 7 Real Estate LLC, filed its application for rezone on the property described in Exhibits A and B from light industrial to general business. The council finds that the petitioner has consent from the property owner, Roger Kessler, and the O'Connor family. It seeks, again, to have the property described in Exhibits A and B zoned from light industrial to general business. This council has paid reasonable regard to the comprehensive plans, current conditions, character of current structures and uses in each district. And from and after this date, the official zoning map of the city shall be changed from light industrial to general business.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Any further questions, comments from council? All right, this time, they will entertain a motion concerning ordinance 2025-14.
Pass ordinance 2025-14.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Mike. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next up, this is resolution 2025-14. This is council to consider the fiscal plan for the LEAP annexations phases 36 through 43. Ben.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we get into the 8 annexations here that are the next 8 items on your agenda, the next task for us is the fiscal plan associated with those 8 annexations. So we did have Baker Tilly prepare a plan for all 8 of those parcels in one combined plan. And so like I typically do, I skip to the appendix and show you the estimated assessed value and property tax rate impacts, and then also then the costs associated with the annexations. If you recall, these 8 annexations are essentially filling holes in previous LEAP district annexations. So these are all properties that will be brought in under the LEAP zoning district, and then looking and seeing what the impacts of those are on the city. So because they're small infill parcels, you're really looking at essentially DPW and police department costs, incremental costs associated with those properties. But here's the estimated assessed value and tax rate impact. So this first column that you see here is the net assessed value of the annexed area. So you can see the assessed values that will that'll come on the books in 26 pay 27 are about $1 million, increasing to about 1.2 million by 29 pay 2030.
And Ben, sorry, just to clarify, and those are for all the 8 parcels
This is
combined
all
together?
8 parcels combined, yes.
Yep,
Yeah,
thank you.
we went ahead and did just one aggregate total. So yes, that is 1 million for all 8 of those parcels. Then the second column, you see how that $1 million impacts the net assessed value, total net assessed value, estimated property tax levy of the city based on controlled levy growth. And then as you can see, it's projecting then the property tax rate to decrease as a result. You look at that math problem, the assessed value versus tax levy. And so then that shows you the impact on the assessed value. And then this next chart then shows you costs for the street and police department. Again, looking at the additional street mileage that the street department have to maintain as a result, and then police department in terms of patrolling. So again, as I mentioned, these are small parcels and within areas that are already in the city. So the incremental costs are fairly minor. For 2027, you're looking at about $700 worth of cost per year based on additional materials and fuel, increasing about $764 by 2030. And so that's that top chart that you see there. The bottom chart then looks at the estimated levy increase based on the increased assessed value, and then the estimated costs. You can see here in 2027, you're looking at levy increases of about $5,700. And then you got the estimated additional cost of 700. So the net impact to the city is a net positive about $5,000 to the city in 2027. And you see that number increases slightly year over year as the revenue increases. And so that is a real quick summary of the fiscal impact to the city based on these annexations. Be happy to answer any questions.
Ben, that also assumes no development on those sites as well, correct?
Yes, that assumes that property stays exactly the same for the next 8 years. And so that's what those revenues are based on.
Questions for Ben on that from council? No, sir. Okay. Any public comment concern? Actually, I'll have you read it first. I'll do public comment. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Resolution 2025-14 is a resolution by this council establishing a fiscal plan for the annexation of certain territory into the city. The areas to be annexed are described in Exhibits A and B. And pursuant to Indiana law, this council is required, again, to adopt a written fiscal plan prior to the passage of annexation ordinances 2025-15 through 22. The required fiscal plan is included as Exhibit C and has been prepared for this council in consideration, has been reviewed and complies with the requirements of Indiana law. This council hereby approves the areas sought to be annexed in this fiscal plan.
Thank you, Rob. This time, if there's any public comment concerning Resolution 2025-14, please come forward. Okay, seeing none. Any further discussion, comments from council? Okay, entertain a motion then concerning Resolution 2025-14.
Make a motion that we pass resolution 2025-14.
A motion from Rob, second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Thank you, council. All right, buckle in here. We got 8 annexations. Ben?
All right, just a quick overview of all of the annexations. Again, as I mentioned, we're looking at basically hole fillers here within the previous LEAP district areas. So we got phase 36 through 43 here. If they want to pull the screen up, I can kind of give you an idea of the overall area all the way north and then out west and then south. Ordinance 2025-15 specifically then is phase 36 that you see here to the north. It is a small little 0.24 acre parcel with an approximate address of, let me see if I can, actually, 1865 West 300 North. So this is a little bit of a close-up of the phase 36 annexation. So Scott, I don't know if you wanted to say anything just on the overall annexation process.
Scott Alexander, outside counsel for IEDC. As Ben indicated, these annexations are, and you've been through this before, infills just to round out sites. We wait about till we get 5 to 10 of them. And then do them all at the same time. Some of these are for the Meta site. The Lilly Medicine Foundry is already done. A couple of them are for State Road 32. But I thought I'd come up just to see if there are any general questions for IEDC about Project LEAP, et cetera, since I'm here and you're here. If not, Ben will go through these and we'll hopefully get these annexed.
Any questions for Scott from the council?
No, sir.
Scott? Okay.
So again, just referring back 2025-15, the first one is the LEAP phase 36 annexation, 1865 West 300 North.
Okay. Rob, I'll have you read it.
Thank you, Mayor Council. I'll hit the highlights with all of these, but Ordinance 2025-15 is the LEAP Phase 36 annexation of certain territory that's described in Exhibits A and B. Again, to reiterate, these are 100% voluntary annexations. So this council finds that the recitals are incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 36 annexation area described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city, satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law, and is assigned Council District 3. Upon recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned for this annexation area, as well as it shall be a part of the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts as enacted in Ordinance ordinance 2024-32 and 25-08, and it shall be in full force and effect as required under Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-15? Any council discussion? Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we pass ordinance 2025-15.
Motion approved. Is there a second? Second from Sierra Shabicha. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. All right, next up will be ordinance 2025-16. This is phase 37.
All right, phase 37 is a 0.34 acre parcel that you see highlighted here to the west end of the LEAP district. This is actually a State Road 32 right-of-way parcel. It's owned by the IEDC. It's part of an old parent parcel that was adjacent. There was some question about what it was actually zoned and how it was annexed. And so we just wanted to clear that up and get this annexed now and get it assigned to the LEAP district zoning classification. So again, this is phase 37 annexation. It's a 0.34 acre parcel.
Ben, Rob?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2025-16, the LEAP Phase 37 annexation is for the properties described, or the property described in Exhibits A and B. Again, it's 100% voluntary annexation. The council finds that the recitals are incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 37 annexation described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city of Lebanon. It satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law and shall be assigned Council District 2. Upon the recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned to this area, and it shall also become a part of the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts and shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and is required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-16? Council discussion? Motion? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. All right, next will be phase, or 2025-17. This is phase 38.
All right, phase 38 is very similar to phase 37. It's an additional State Road 32 right-of-way parcel out here on the west end of the LEAP district. You see highlighted here, it's a 0.86 acre piece of property. Again, that's phase 38, the LEAP district annexation.
Thank you, Ben. Rob?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2025-17 is the LEAP Phase 38 annexation for the property described in Exhibits A and B. Again, it's 100% voluntary annexation. Council finds that the foregoing recitals are incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 38 annexation area described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city of Lebanon. It satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law and shall be assigned Council District 2. Upon recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP District zoning classification is assigned to this annexation area, as well as the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts. And this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage by this council and as required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-17? Council discussion? Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we pass ordinance 2025-17.
Motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that's approved. All right, next will be ordinance 2025-18.
All right, 2025-18 is a LEAP Phase 39 annexation. We're now moving down to the south end of the LEAP district that you see highlighted here. And here are the two parcels that are associated with Phase 39. It's about 5.78 acres total. Addresses are 403 South 400 West and 3980 West 50 South. Again, that's the LEAP Phase 39 annexation.
Thank you, Ben. Rob?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2025-18, against the LEAP Phase 39 annexation for the properties described in Exhibits A and B. Again, it's 100% voluntary annexation. Council finds that the foregoing recitals are accurate and incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 39 annexation area, again described in Exhibits A and B, are eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city of Lebanon. It satisfies the contiguity requirements and shall be assigned Council District 2. Upon recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned to this area, as well as the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage by this council and as required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-18? Council discussion?
No, sir. I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2025-18.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next is 2025-19, Phase 40.
All right, LEAP Phase 40, again, we're at the south end of the LEAP district. You see identified here on the overall map. And here's a zoomed in area here. It's a 3.85 acre parcel. Property address is 445 South 300 West. Again, this is LEAP Phase 40 annexation.
Rob?
Thank you, Mayor. Council ordinance 2025-19 is the LEAP Phase 40 annexation for the property described in Exhibits A and B. Again, this is a 100% voluntary annexation. Council finds that the foregoing recitals are accurate and incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 40 annexation area described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city of Lebanon. The area satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law and shall be assigned Council District 2. Upon the recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned to this area, as well as the water and wastewater LEAP rate district, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its passage by this council and as required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment? Any council discussion? No, sir. Is there a motion? This is 19.
Make a motion that we pass ordinance 2025-19.
Motion to pass. Is there a second? Second. Second from Dick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next will be ordinance 2025-20.
All right, 2025-20 is the LEAP Phase 41 annexation. As you see here, it's a small parcel right on State Road 32. It is a 1 acre piece of property that you see highlighted here. The address of this parcel is 2250 West State Road 32. Again, this is a LEAP Phase 41 annexation.
Rob?
Thank you, Mayor. Council ordinance 2025-20 is the LEAP Phase 41 annexation for the property described in Exhibits A and B. Again, this is 100% voluntary annexation. This council finds that the foregoing recitals are accurate and incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 41 annexation area described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city of Lebanon. It satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law and shall be assigned Council District 3. Upon recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned to this area, as well as the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its passage by this council and as required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment? Okay. Council discussion?
No, sir.
Motion?
I make a motion, we pass ordinance 2025-20.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that ordinance is adopted. Thank you, council. All right, two more. Ordinance 2025-21, Phase 42.
All right, LEAP Phase 42 is what you see here highlighted right here in the center of this south center of the LEAP district area. That is a 40 acre parcel. Again, you see highlighted here in the zoomed in map. The address of the parcel is 3755 West 25 North. And again, that's the LEAP Phase 42 annexation.
Thank you, Ben. Ben, Rob?
Thank you, Mayor. Council ordinance 2025-21, again, is the LEAP Phase 42 annexation for the property described in Exhibits A and B. And again, this is a 100% voluntary annexation. This council finds that the foregoing recitals are accurate and incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 42 annexation area described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation and declared annexed into and a part of the city of Lebanon. The LEAP Phase 42 annexation area satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law and is assigned Council District 2. Upon recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned to this area, as well as the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts. And this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage by this council and is required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Public comment? Council discussion?
No, sir.
Motion?
Make a motion we approve ordinance 2025-21.
Motion to approve and a second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. All right, and finally, ordinance 2025-22. This is phase 43.
All right, LEAP Phase 43, you see highlighted here on the map, kind of the north central area north of State Road 32, is a 6.59 acre parcel that you again see additionally highlighted here at the corner of West 200 North and North 400 West. Again, this is the LEAP Phase 43 annexation.
Thank you, Ben. Rob?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2025-22 is the LEAP Phase 43 annexation for the property described in Exhibits A and B. Again, this is a 100% voluntary annexation. This council finds that the foregoing recitals are accurate and incorporated by reference. The LEAP Phase 43 annexation area described in Exhibits A and B is eligible for annexation into the city and declared annexed into and a part of the city. This area satisfies the contiguity requirements under Indiana law and is assigned Council District 3. Upon the recommendation of the Plan Commission, the LEAP district zoning classification is assigned for this area as well as the water and wastewater LEAP rate districts. And this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage by this council and is required by Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-22? Any council discussion?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Move.
So move to do what?
So move to approve.
So move to approve. Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mike. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Hey, I'm not trying to be a stickler. I just got to make sure
I'm
we're.
sorry. I should have.
Yep, you're
I
good. You're
should have
good.
said that. I'm sorry.
All right, that concludes what I have for new business. Is there anything from council?
No, sir.
We have a second page here. So are we good on time? Anybody need a comfort break? We okay? Okay, keep chugging then. All right, new business then. Thank you, Scott. All right, first item up here is resolution 2025-13. This is the City of Lebanon, Indiana, delegating limited and eminent domain authority powers to the Lebanon Utility Service Board concerning the wholesale water main phase 1. Jeff Jacob is from the utilities here to discuss this.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you. I'm here tonight to talk about land acquisition for the wholesale water main project. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. And just as by way of recollection and reminder, the utility board and the city council entered into an agreement with Citizens Water many months ago for the delivery of water to the east side of the city of Lebanon. The utility has been charged with constructing a water main from that connection point on the east side of the city here, routing the water main through up here to State Road 32. Both of those points will have storage tanks that I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. But you recall that water supply agreement has a number of delivery dates and volumes of water that citizens will be delivering water to the city. The first of which is 2 million gallons a day in January of 2027. And we need to be ready to accept that water at that time. We have so you're aware, and there's been a number of agreements that have come before the utility board and the city council of users in the LEAP district, and there'll be a number of users in the civil district of potential users wanting that water by that date of January 2027 and are beginning to count on that for the timely delivery of water. So the utility then began working backwards from that January 2027 date, and we've determined that we need to start construction this September on approximately 50,000 linear feet of water main, a ground storage tank, and an elevated storage tank in order to meet those water needs and deadlines. Now, a good amount of the necessary temporary and permanent easement will be dedicated by Indiana Economic Development Corporation within the LEAP district. And since I've last spoken to you, we have acquired a good number of easements, temporary and permanent easements along this route. But we still have 23 private landowners that we need to either acquire permanent and temporary easement from, and then one fee simple property owner that we need to acquire for the ground storage tank. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've done to date from a process standpoint. This is not a request the utility board nor I make lightly, and I want you to be aware of what we have done to work towards where we are today. So the utility board in its regular meetings on a number of occasions have discussed and approved the route that you see before you. That has been vetted by engineers, that has been cleared through the city, and approved in public meetings by the Utility Service Board. We have also had a project meeting that was open to the public related to the SRF loan and this wholesale water main project. And we've also conducted a formal public hearing related to the SRF loan and the preliminary engineering report detailing this route. Once the route was what I would say officially finalized by the utility board, they immediately penned a letter to the affected landowners, informally notifying them by letter that they had been identified, their property had been identified along this route, and simply introducing them to the project and asking that they contact our land acquisition team with any questions. So several months ago, the utility has also, through my office, hired a number of appraisers to begin to value the temporary and permanent easement and the fee ownership parcel valuations. And several weeks ago, the land acquisition team sent out offer letters to the affected landowners and has tried to meet, and in fact has met with a number of them. And as mentioned, we have acquired a number of easement, a number of temporary and permanent easement necessary for the project. We still have quite a few to go, however. As you're aware, I have been before you and made this request, and my office and the land acquisition team will continue to negotiate and work with property owners as we proceed with the more formal process of condemnation, which is what I'm asking the authority to proceed with here this evening. But we've reached the point that we need to, in order to hit our construction schedule and the water delivery date, that we need to proceed with condemnation authority. The utility board supports this request and has charged me with making the request by resolution of you this evening to proceed with the condemnation authority to begin filing against property owners. Again, I have done work for the utility for a number of years, and I know that I've mentioned this to many of you. I've been fortunate to work with a number of property owners in and around the city in order to acquire easement, to work through issues, location of tiles, of septic fields, of driveways, to time projects in such a way that we can have as little impact on the property owners as possible. And to the extent we can, we will continue to do that. However, we do have some time periods here that we are ready to proceed with filing and moving along with the condemnation process. And it's that request that I make of you this evening.
Hey, Jeff, so generally, I mean, I know we have the site for the groundwater storage tank and then the elevated storage tanks, but other than that, the actual where the pipe is going, fair to say that that's easements and not necessarily full right-of-way or taking. There's no takings with that. It's an easement.
Yeah, so save for those two exclusive uses of the storage tanks, we are seeking temporary and permanent easement only. So property owners would still be able to, with some restrictions, use the property. So, we've done some carve-outs, for example. You can still have a driveway go over the water main. You can still put fence crossing over that water main. So we're not taking this in terms of a fee ownership. We want to bury this water main below the ground, and hopefully the property owner never knows it's there.
From our meeting, when we had talked, I just want to make it known to the public that all the people affected by this haven't been notified multiple times, have had opportunity to talk with people if they have any questions about the process or if they have any issues with it. I know you said personally there was people personally having meetings at their homes and stuff just to discuss the process and see if they have questions on how we can try to make things as smooth as possible. Is that correct?
That's correct. So
Okay.
just at the utility board, I think had a very good idea is that once they approved the route, informally, this is not part of the condemnation statutory process. They sent letters to those affected property owners. And there were a few that contacted the right-of-way team or the land acquisition team. And there were a few issues. Hey, what about putting a barn here? There were a few of those issues that were addressed. So then we've gone forward with the appraisal process, and there's an offer packet that they would receive by mail or hand delivery. And the land acquisition team is knocking on doors, making phone calls, as many as they can. Our goal is to resolve it informally through that process always. However, sometimes there's simply a dispute as to the valuation, and our appraisers say one thing, and we are bound by those numbers to some extent. So yes, we continue to try to resolve them, and we have done so. And everyone along that route has received communications to the best of our ability.
Jeff, could you, not to give doomsday scenario, but what happens if this isn't approved, or we can't get the easements from these people on what happens with the project?
Well, we would have delay, and relative to some of the commitments the utility and the city council have made related to the delivery of water. So once that water is delivered to that connection point by citizens, we need to start paying for it, whether or not we're receiving it or not. And so that is one element. We have a tight construction timetable. I'm pleased to report that we've recently signed a public-private agreement with Kokosine Industrial to begin construction. They have, in fact, began acquiring materials, hopefully as we speak. And they're ready to proceed once we give them clearance. So one of the issues, Mayor, that we can't do, as I've learned a little bit about this, is one of the helpful areas is that a lot of this easement will be dedicated by Indiana Economic Development Corporation. However, we can't piecemeal easement. We can't start on one piece of property and then jump a couple next and install it. We need to start at one end and move along. And so as I understand it, I don't think they'll start at two ends and meet in the middle. I think they start in one location and run all the way to the connection point. So, if we don't acquire easement, that's going to delay the project, and would cause some re-engineering and some difficulties in terms of how we would get from point A to point B to deliver the water to the community.
But also, essentially, if there's no water coming in, right, we can't, there's larger ripples even with that. On a grander scale, Mayor, the city and utility have made some commitments to a number of businesses in LEAP, and we're about to make a number of commitments to users in the civil district that will come before you in the next few weeks, of users anywhere from businesses to residential developers to single homeowners that are wanting additional water. And those are needs that we need to try and meet. And without this project, we cannot deliver the 2 million gallons of water a day in January 2027, the 8 million gallons water in 2028 and beyond. So we do not have a secondary water source without this project, Mayor. Thank you. And is it fair to say this is probably the last vote of this council would take before this project is greenlit and we're off to the races?
So we will have a number of phases.
Right, but for the 2 MGD phase.
For the 2 MGD phase, I believe that's correct, Mayor. So the wastewater plant improvement project, we've gone ahead and had a scoring committee, met with a number of construction teams, and we believe that they have whittled that decision down, if not made it. And we'll begin moving forward with a contract, a public-private agreement for the improvement of the existing wastewater treatment facility as well. And so we don't need any additional ground for that phase 1 on that project. So yes, this is, once we close on that loan, Mayor, the SRF loan, the end of this month, beginning of next, we're off to the races.
Jeff, any further questions for Jeff from the council?
I just think the public needs to be aware, we're not tearing homes down. This is an easement. We're going to, if we put the pipe down, we're going to replace it. We're going to replace the grass, the ground, and all that stuff. It's going to look just like normal after it's all done and over with, correct?
Yeah, we will return it to as like a condition as we can.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
If a driveway gets, part of the driveway gets removed, that portion will be replaced. Is that correct?
That's correct. Whether or not the homeowner does that and they'd be compensated for that, that's all contemplated in the appraisal. If we have to take a tree down, they're compensated as part of the appraisal.
Questions for Jeff from the council? Thanks, sir. Any public comment concerning Resolution 2025-13? Seeing none, any further discussion between council?
No, sir.
Is there a motion concerning, oh yeah, Rob can read it, please. Yeah, thank you. Yes, we should read it, yeah.
All right, thank you, Mayor Council. Resolution 2025-13 is again a resolution for this council delegating limited eminent domain powers to the Lebanon Utility Service Board. The city has the powers of eminent domain under the laws of the state of Indiana. And again, as Jeff indicated, the Lebanon Utility Service Board has determined it's necessary to improve and expand the municipal water system for the purposes of constructing and operating the wholesale water main project phase 1 located in Boone County that's described in Exhibit A. The details of the properties, the approximate amount of the land needed, and the property interests are described in Exhibits B. And this council finds that the Lebanon Utility Service Board is hereby delegated all powers of eminent domain vested in the city for the limited purposes of acquiring property and interests as necessary, but as detailed in the attached exhibits. This council expressly reserves the right to withdraw or modify this delegation through the adoption of a subsequent resolution, and this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption.
Thank you, Rob. Any further discussion from comments from council? Okay, is there a motion then concerning Resolution 2025-13?
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 2025-13.
We have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Council. Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, and finally here, this is concerning the award recommendation concerning the guaranteed savings RFPQ that we put out concerning street lighting. So just to kind of give you a heads up, and Kevin's here as well, at our it was back in February, March. You guys delegated some authority to the Board of Works to solicit proposals for these street lighting projects, essentially, to help us kind of start this process. We got 3 responses back. I forget the first company. You probably know them, Kevin. Actually, I'll just let you handle it from here, actually.
No, you're doing fine. Thank you. Yeah, the mayor's right. This is coming back to you. All this is pursuant to a legislative process under Indiana Code 36-1-12.5. And that code allows this method of procurement, these energy savings improvements. And that code states that is a legislative function. So although we had delegated, which we feel like we had the right to, we felt it was appropriate to bring this back to you and make sure that everyone's on the same page as we go forward with this. So we did issue an RFP in March, and respondents had until Monday last week to respond. We received 3 responses, one from Verigy, one from Energy Systems Group, and one from Schneider Electric. And so these are all companies that are qualified under what the state calls as energy service companies. And so that code that I mentioned earlier gives us the ability to, under that code, to identify and select an energy service company to work on the city's behalf or work for the city. And we, per that code, we are to select a firm based on the most qualified firm that responds, that provides the greatest value to the city.
Yeah, and so I couldn't remember the first name, the
Verigy.
Verity,
Yes.
thank you, Verigy. And so Kevin and I both reviewed the proposals independently, and then we kind of compared notes afterwards, and I think we frankly had the same opinion. The Verigy group, they were mostly focused on solar panels, and we had met with, and Kevin had met with all these groups to kind of give them what we were trying to do with this project. And their really submittal really wasn't tailored to what we were trying to do very well. And then really Schneider and ESG were both very similar, both very qualified. It had similar experience. I thought ESG was a little bit more focused and honed in on the streetlight kind of component of this, of kind of their process to go through that. And, really close decision, but I think in the day, I think ESG understood maybe the project we were going for maybe a little bit better. And that's kind of where we kind of both independently had the recommendation to go forward with ESG on this project to kind of help us go through this, essentially this process because there's an analysis of the whole project, and then there's kind of how do we then structure it all and make it all provide those cost savings at the end of the day is what we're trying to do with this project to help us both implement and give obviously more new streetlights, but then also pairing that with the energy savings we'll get from the system as well too. So final thoughts, Kevin, if there's anything else,
No, I think that's it. This is maybe a new process before this council, but this is not a new procurement process. Our friends at Lebanon Utilities use energy savings and guaranteed savings procurement methods all the time. Our school districts do this. So this is not something foreign, and a lot of cities do this. So really, this is just a way that allows us to put a proposal out there to find a turnkey contractor that will come in and help us evaluate our operating costs, include and increase efficiencies in those operations, improve our infrastructure, and but all that is based around the idea that this is a company that will come in and analyze and make recommendations and ultimately build and construct projects for us based on that premise of trying to save us money in how we operate systems long term. The RFQ was written in a very broad fashion that allows us to select a user and then start establishing projects for them to do. So if you read through the RFQ, the RFP, it didn't mention street lighting per se. It did, but that wasn't the whole focus. And that's just how the code is set up. Then once we find that partner that we feel is most qualified, the most qualified energy savings contractor for us, then we give them tasks. And the first task, of course, we will give them will be retrofitting our entire streetlight system citywide.
So we won't know what that fee is going to be until we give them the task.
No, and the proposals, the responses that we received are just that. They're responses based on their qualifications. So we're choosing a team. You are choosing a team based on the recommendations that the mayor and I are giving you to enter into an agreement with ESG. But similar to say like a build, operate, transfer agreement, all that you're doing now is saying, we're going to work with this preferred, most qualified vendor, and then we're going to work to develop a program, develop a plan that at some point in that process, they will commit to us a guaranteed maximum price, as well as building in energy savings to that program for a 20-year life cycle. And then at that time, then we would come back to you and the Board of Works and enter into a contract for them to actually perform the work. That would include everything from design, analysis, design, and construction.
Yeah, and just to clarify, yeah, so we're not appropriating any money tonight. It strictly is just firm selection.
Was the utilities included on this discussion?
The utilities were included in terms of developing inventories of our streetlights.
Who do they use? Do you know?
They've never done an energy savings contract like this. The savings contracts they have done have been more like operational issues on their plant, building force main systems across the city. We had a lot of their typical contractors reach out to us, and we had to inform them that yes, you would be qualified, but this is not going to be a heavy infrastructure project. This would be street lighting.
They would, so locally, the contracts would be hired later down the road. This is to help essentially have the team to set up the structure, everything.
I understand that.
Okay.
I just think that I emailed Ed today to have him go over because this is their wheelhouse. I mean, that's their domain is electricity, and he knows what our linemen are capable of, and maybe there could be ways that cost savings that they could do some of the work in-house or something, or they may know something about the type of solar or the type of benefits we actually get from the different companies. I thought the recs were so broad that you guys sent us, and I feel like we just got this Saturday and I didn't have time to investigate more. So for me, I think we should table this so I could investigate more and talk with the utilities to see if they have a preference on who they think should go with. I mean, energy is their wheelhouse, and they know all the vendors, and they know, they have connections in that world.
Well, and they will be part of the process. And so what I would say is that it absolutely is. I mean, the physical streetlights themselves are their world, yes, right? But they do belong to the city, and we pay the utilities for the energy they use, right? And so it's a city asset. And so what we're trying to do is actually have someone help us best manage that system. And frankly, I don't know if the utilities has time to do this type of analysis that we're asking that this firm will do, right? And because that's not really their job, right? That's why we're trying to bring in outside help to do it. And we're just trying to have.
Here's what I worry about with them not being in on these discussions is, say they come through and give this recommendation to change XYZ to make it more energy efficient. Well, maybe there's ways that the utilities can help cut costs on our side. If we work together, we might have more opportunity for discussion and make sure things go, smoothly they're part of the city too. I don't know. I just feel like they should be in on these type of discussions when it's something in their wheelhouse.
And they will be, right? I mean, that's I was trying to explain, they will be part of these discussions. Like obviously whoever we select tonight will need to work very closely with utilities to figure out the system, and there will be that partnership. When we went through and put in the streetlights in the park and on East Street, right? I mean, they were involved in those conversations, absolutely. But the streetlights themselves are city assets, so it's our system that we have to manage. They certainly have always provided support and help us when one goes out, things like absolutely. And so they're going to be part of the conversation, but I think it's a little different of the firm we're choosing to work with is kind of our decision. And then, they're going to by necessity have to work with whoever, with their utilities.
And I understand that, but that's their wheelhouse, and they may know something about those vendors that we don't know. And having a discussion with them to get feedback on whether if they have recommendations, obviously it's our choice on who we choose, but I think having a discussion. So, there's different, solar's different and how much capacity it can take and how much actually goes back. And then, that has to be there's so much complexity in because one of the whole letters that was sent was all basically trying to push solar and things
Right.
like that, which was really cool. And like I said, these were very broad. I was having a hard time following all of the different plans because they weren't specific. It was just kind of a general overview without going into more detail. I
Right.
felt like.
And that's the structure of the state code, right? It's we're seeking the qualifications of the firm. And then once the firm selected is, then we then kind of say, this is the project we're working on, right? So theoretically, you could also do the similar type of procurement for HVAC systems, right? Or do building envelope for our police station if we want to.
Schools do a lot of lighting updates to their buildings, HVAC controls, things like that, are typical energy savings projects that you see these firms working on. But I mean, to your point, I have no issue if we want to table this and consider more conversation. But
I mean, again, we both reviewed the proposals. I mean, it seemed pretty clear to me of who, both seemed very good, both qualified. I mean, from both of us, ESG seemed to be the better firm to go with. You guys delegated us to kind of do that analysis for you. That's fine, but.
I understand that, but it's just my personal opinion, and I think we should include the utilities input on it. But I mean, it's the will of the council. If they don't want to do that, then that's, we can move forward, with whatever the majority wants to do. But I still think that we should have the discussion before we choose. That's just my opinion. So.
Well, yeah, I understand that. But I think what the mayor's saying is that we have to select a firm that is qualified through the state of Indiana to evaluate what we will need to do. And once they do that, with discussions with the Lebanon utilities, then they can work together as a team to implement whatever they need to do. So
Correct. But in my opinion, I'd like to have their input on which firm they would think we should choose, because that's their domain.
we gave the mayor and the city engineer the authority to do that.
Yeah, and they're giving us their recommendation, and I'm taking that under consideration. I mean, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I thought that I don't know if you guys have all read the attachments, but I felt like it was to me, they were kind of all over the place and a little hard to follow because like you
one
said,
was nearly 800 pages long.
Yeah,
too.
I was trying to go through it and it was a lot. And then, like I said, it was a little bit all over and I couldn't pinpoint exactly what they were even really wanting to do for us. I don't know. It's a lot because it's a big scope. It's a big scope of, it sounds like what they do. And I don't know, it's just, like I said, power is not my wheelhouse. And I would just feel like utilities might have some input as well to consider. That's all.
And I absolutely hear what you're saying. And again, I think whoever we choose will have to be very close partners with the utilities in this project regardless, right? So I absolutely hear what you're saying. I think just to put a fine point on it, like this is about picking the firm that can do lots of different projects and some may be utilities related, some may not be, right? And that's where under this gives us that flexibility to do all those things, right? So, there are a lot of times they do energy savings contracts at the wastewater treatment plant as well. So I think I understand that we're talking about electric because that's what we have in our mind today about the streetlights, but it's really not just about that. It's about the bigger firm selection, if that makes sense. And that's why they felt broad because it is. These firms are trying to showcase these are all the different types of projects we can do for you. So. Good.
I went through the proposals today and looked at the proposals today, and they're all three qualified. Okay. Varigus was leading more towards a solar platform, which I think is probably a good thing for new buildings and so forth, maybe older buildings as well. Okay, it might be something to look into. I don't know if we look into it for any of our buildings currently, but maybe in the future or something,
With respect to solar, just to add something to that, Dick, all three firms, we talked about solar.
Yeah.
That one proposal was very much oriented towards solar. But what they all said is the solar powered streetlights, that technology really isn't efficient
Yeah,
this far north.
Yeah.
We don't have enough daylight hours.
yeah,
So when they were talking about if we wanted to potentially build solar into our program, it's about creating a solar field somewhere that would help to offset the power, not to necessarily provide solar power to lights, but to provide a solar power offset to the electricity we use
Right.
on the lights, the
Right.
traditional electricity.
Right.
So that will be part of any conversation and any program that we try to develop. But we felt like that one firm really wasn't listening to us because they did not focus in as much on street lighting as we had
Right.
asked them to.
right. And I kind of go back to that it's, they're going to evaluate our streetlights and so forth. Years ago, we did that and we changed everything to LED system, and we did see a savings through the utilities. Okay. And that was all generated by the utilities to do that sort of thing, and, we got to remember, and we have to include them in on this project because in my opinion, we're buying a pole and some of the lightings, and they're putting it together and they're maintaining the whole thing, and they've got to maintain the whole lighting system throughout the city. And so, they've got to be included in if there's any more cost savings that can be done.
And they will be. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
They
so
will
I
be.
just want to
Yeah.
make sure that they are, but just, I just remember we did something similar to this years ago, and then we did see a savings. Now, I'd probably say it's probably 10 years ago. Mike Martin was still here when that happened.
It was before more than 10 then, because I was,
Oh, okay, so,
because it was
yeah.
Jay McCoskey for a while too when I first came in. So it's
Okay, so
been more
it
than
was-
10.
It was done
so-
when Mike was here.
Yeah.
So do we need another? Yeah, we might. So, I'm not going to say we don't, we may need that new evaluation, but we need to work with the utilities and making that sort of thing happen. So, you want to delay it a couple of weeks so everybody else can look at the proposals. I don't care, but I can, it's whatever you guys want to do.
I don't have any problem if we want to step back and ask the electric department to comment.
I mean, like I said, I don't see a reason to, but it's we gave you the recommendation. It's essentially your decision, but I mean,
I'm okay with the recommendation. But if others would like to delay it a week so they have more time to look at it, I'm okay
It's just
with
hard
that
because
as
we
well.
got this on Saturday and I was trying to reach out to get questions answered about it because I emailed the utilities just so I could get their input to see if there was something I was missing. And I couldn't get a response because it was such late
Saturday,
notice.
yeah.
So that's why.
so I guess is there,
So we make a motion.
well, we either can have to accept the recommendation that we're making, or we can make a motion to table it. I mean, it can be, I don't have a motion yet.
I'm going to make a motion to table.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's tabled. We'll take that up at our next meeting. Well, it was enough motion to table it, so yeah, we're good. All right, that concludes what I have for new business. Anything from council? Okay, move on to claims. Entertain a motion concerning the claims.
Make a motion, we pay the claims.
Motion to pay the claims. Is there a second? Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, any further announcements, discussion? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our next city council meeting will be May 27th at 7:15 PM. We are adjourned.